I'm Aryeh Schwartz, along with my co-host, Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the WNBA Insider Show. Each week, we cover different topics important to the W, using X's and O's along with key stats to bring honest and critical analysis. A lot of really interesting stuff is going on, Rachel. You want to talk about the news that just broke this morning, official?
What news?
Well, I don't know if you've been following Doug Feinberg, but New York Liberty finally, I believe it's been like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for some information. Doug broke last week 2 weeks ago that it was almost finalized, that the minority owner of the Brooklyn Nets will be buying the team. The cool thing for me, honestly, is because the announcement that came out, they're still playing up in Westchester, which really sucks. He seems like the type of guy, through talking to some people, who's going to invest some money in this, and that's good. I also think it's interesting, and this is a whole episode on its own, owners coming into the league now with the current climate of social reform and change and whatnot, I think are going to be more likely to really invest in, other than, let's say, some owners that have been around the league a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I think, they talk about it on the release, kind of the philanthropic, I just made that word up, charitable type of, things that their family are into, and just kind of investing into the city of New York and investing into, obviously, the different programs and sports teams around the area have been at the core of who they are as a family. So this is big news. I think it's a big sigh of relief for a lot of people. I think it's a huge changing of the guard, which probably helps tremendously. I think New York needed some big time news. And I think, he talked about coming in at the right time when the WNBA is kind of where it's at right now, where its popularity is at the highest it's ever been. And New York has an opportunity here and to make some major changes and to make this, like you said, pour some money into it and make this into a really desirable place. It's got such a rich history. He acknowledged that 22 years and how much it means to the city of New York. Even this, despite some of the moves and we don't need to get into Westchester and any of that, but I think it's just a good sign. I was excited to see it. I think I speak for everyone that it's kind of a relief. And now, I'm excited to see what's ahead for the Liberty.
I'm just going to throw this out there. I believe I read he is a connection to the Alibaba company. And my hope, if nothing else comes from him taking over this team, is that we get some WNBA gear on Alibaba so I can start, I'll order my rip-off NFL jersey. I probably shouldn't say that out loud. I'll order the rip-off NFL jerseys and other, old school basketball jerseys. But I'm hoping we'll be able to get some nice WNBA rip-off gear with some kickbacks to the league and the players. Other interesting news that's been going on. I'm a Midwest guy, so we're going to start with the North and move our way south, if that's okay with you, Rachel.
Save the best for last. Okay.
Well, it depends if you're deciding best by championship rings.
Yeah.
Maya Moore, news breaks, and it originally broke from a local reporter at WCCO in Minneapolis, stating that rumors have started to swirl that Maya will not be back this coming season for the Minnesota Lynx. Now, in his report, he did mention slightly, it could mean that she's leaving, demanding a trade. It could mean retirement. It could mean just taking a year off. All things that we have seen in the W. We've seen players demand trades. We'll get there later. We've seen players retire early just because of the toll that it takes on our body. I mean, the WNBA player, the female athlete lifespan in basketball is so much shorter for professionals than it is for men because they're playing year round and a plethora of other things that the men's side get to kind of keep their bodies in tip-top shape. But Rachel, what were your thoughts initially when you heard Maya wanted out?
Well, I mean, I think anytime you hear news like this with a player the darling of the WNBA, if you will, in Maya Moore. Obviously, that's groundbreaking news. That's kind of earth shattering in many ways. But at the same time, there's so much speculation. There's so many people who have opinions as to what's going on or what could be going on. I mean, the rumors just absolutely start swirling, and rightfully so. I mean, it brings up the discussion and what could happen. And I think, Maya Moore is a different bird. She is a very private person. She's a very spiritual person. She's a very focused person. And I think I speak for a lot of people when last year she seemed a little bit off. Now you could say the entirety of the Lynx seemed a little bit off. So maybe that was just a byproduct of that. But given what we saw last year in Minnesota, I wasn't surprised by it. And if it's just a standpoint of needing to take some time away, we've seen that before. As you said, it takes a toll mentally, physically, emotionally, kind of what these women are asked to do round the clock, year round, to continue to perform at their peak. So I'm not surprised that maybe potentially there's talk of taking a year off. Obviously, you've heard things about, would Maya Moore ever play again? You've heard rumors about, could Maya Moore be unhappy in Minnesota? Is there a potential trade talk with somewhere maybe closer to home like Atlanta? We could go through all these different scenarios, but at the end of the day, I don't think we know. And if I had to guess, if I had to, were a betting woman, I would say that Maya will not play this year. It seems like to me she's just the vibe I get from her as a person, spiritually as well, that, she probably just needs to step away for a period of time. And that's completely healthy and completely normal. We've seen it time and time again, but ultimately we don't know. We don't know.
Well, and I'll just throw this out there. I mean, all right, again, ultimately we don't know. Maya's very private. I'm not saying that I've spoken to her agent or anything like that. I'm just putting out there my thought process. If I'm trying to educatedly, I'll make up a word too, because you're doing it. Run through this. One, from the Lynx side point, I would never trade her. If I'm Cheryl, I know there was, some talk of, if she's demanding a trade, blah, blah, blah. If I'm Cheryl, I pull the card where you fly out to Atlanta, you go down there. Obviously, they've been talking this offseason. You go and you talk to her and you say, look, you're going through some stuff, whatever it is. I'm sure they know better than we do. Say you're going through some stuff. We support you. The Lynx organization is here for you. This is a drop in the bucket of your career. This is not a big deal. Take some time off, heal your body up, get mentally prepared, because you are that killer who is the face of our franchise. So you miss a year, not a big deal. And the reason I say that is because the flip side. One, if you're the Lynx and you're trading Maya Moore, you want to get a whole hell of a lot back for that. You're not just going to go, oh yeah, Maya Moore wants out and she's done some great stuff for our team, so, I'm just going to trade her for nothing. That's not how it works. This is a business. Second of all, if we look at it from what we know about Maya, competitiveness, loves basketball, loves family, and loves her faith and her religion. All right? Not knocking any of that. Obviously, if she's considering sitting out, we can put basketball to the side for a moment and say that, family and faith are a little bit higher on her priorities, and that's respectable. If that's true, we have to think about it realistically. The only place that realistically she would be demanding a trade, if she was demanding a trade or wanted a trade, would be closer to her family and faith, which is in Atlanta.
Right.
Now, if we think it through that, if we're going off that logic, which I think is pretty sound logic, let's think of it this way. Does Atlanta have the keys to get that trade off the ground? I don't think so.
I don't.
Because not only, Angel McCoughtry is an amazing superstar. I don't think you do player for player. And then you start talking about, who else they're going to, it just gets very convoluted. And I just don't think they have the tools to pull that off. Do you?
I don't at all. I think you'd have to get a third party involved. I don't see Coach Reif wanting Angel McCoughtry. Nothing personal. It's just kind of the state of where the Lynx are, in my opinion, needing to kind of completely restructure and completely refine their own identity. They were what they were for so long, and now they're not anymore. So they've got to revamp kind of everything from top to bottom, especially if Maya's going to sit out.
Well, and let me throw this out there. I know we were texting, so this won't be a complete shock to you. But let me just throw something out there. The biggest issue for me, the Lynx last year, was the lack of experience or confidence in their young players who would come in for these gods, right? You're coming in for Simone Augustus, Maya Moore, Rebecca Brunson. These are players who have won 4 championships, 5 championships, and are just some of the greatest to ever play. So when you come in, and we saw this quite often with Zandalacini, where she would have a shot and you'd see her thinking about it. Do I shoot it? Being a little bit hesitant. You can't be like that when you're on the court. Back me up on that, Rachel, right?
Well, no, not at all. You can't be hesitant. You've got to have confidence with it. You got to be able to know you have the confidence of your head coach behind you. And we did see that, and I to kind of go off what you were saying. I think all eyes have got, not all eyes, because there's eyes everywhere going on with everything going on right now, but Minnesota, do you tank it and just completely refine it and change everything? Do you try to salvage, a little bit of what you can here and there? I honestly, I don't have the answers to that, but
I got the answer, Rachel.
Go ahead, tell me.
Okay, well, this is what I was getting at. All right, Simone Augustus, Rebecca Brunson, I think on certain teams they could still start. And even on this Lynx team, they could start. I think for the better of the Lynx, what you need to do, you find one of them, maybe both of them, I think one of them, and you throw them on the bench and they lead that bench mob. Maybe it's Brunson so that you're guaranteed to get a crap ton of rebounds when your second string is in there. And she can kind of bring Zandy under her wing and say, come on. But also having Maya out and having Brunson out, let's say, or Simone out, from that starting lineup, you give an opportunity to, let's say you throw Temi at the 4, all right? And then you got the Twin Towers there with Sil and Temi. Temi can run. Maybe then you get Zandalacini in a little bit. Now you got that where, there are options, I think, with the current roster that we see now. And yes, I understand Simone and Rebecca are free agents, but we all know they're going to sign back. Come on. So in my mind, a roster like that plays the solid staple defense of the Minnesota Lynx could be a middle-of-the-pack team that will surprise you in the playoffs. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, and to circle back to what we were talking about when it comes to Maya and a potential trade, if we're playing hypotheticals, again, I would absolutely bet everything I own on the fact that Angel would not be going to Minnesota. I just don't think that's even close to being realistic. So, yeah, you got to look at maybe potentially some sort of, another team getting involved in the midst of a trade. Atlanta not having a ton of cap space financially, that makes it extremely interesting as well. I think that's a long shot, to find a way to get that done where Maya Moore could potentially be in Atlanta for the 2019 season. I'm not saying it's impossible, but man, a lot of stars have to align. But most importantly, Maya's, kind of well-being, physically, emotionally, I think has to align first. And I'm not convinced she's going to play this year. So I think, I guess for myself, just my opinion, I'm preparing that she's going to sit out.
Yeah, and as much as that sucks, I think it's for the better. But I will throw this one thing out. I've seen a lot of, and then we can move on to a few other topics, but I've seen a lot of people talk about, the Lynx aren't going to tank out this year because it's Simone and Brunson's last year. I don't think the Lynx would tank out because I don't think Cheryl Reeve would allow that style of play. There's certain teams that, they might have look to the coming season and say it's not going to be that good. But I could not see the Lynx tanking out. And in all honesty, again, you can make some great moves. Deep draft. Mm-hmm. You get a good draft pick, someone who can score. I'm not counting the Lynx out this next year. I don't know. I'm not sold on it. But time to move on to probably the biggest story, the most dominant story of the news cycle right now. New York has a new owner. LA's gotten some new hires, and that kind of leads us to Lizzie. Liz Cambage. Reports came out yesterday from you, Rachel. Liz Cambage demanding a trade or requesting a trade I guess it's semantics at that point, wants out from Dallas. And, the team had to issue a statement about it, which you don't often see when a player's asking for a trade. The team demand a statement. I'm just going to say my little piece real quick, and then I want you to talk a little bit, Rachel. My little piece is, we can talk, no, I've not spoken to Liz. I do not know her logic or her reasoning. Calls to her management team have been ignored. We have not gotten responses yet. But what I will say is, if you look at it from this perspective, if she wants out from Dallas, I think it's easy to put a few things together. She's been open about wanting to go to LA earlier in her career. She has been open about the W not paying her enough money. So it's obviously something besides the W that is coming into her decision. And when I think about that, I think about, all right, what are possibilities fit-wise? She's not necessarily chasing a championship. All right. If she's chasing a championship and that's her goal, fine. Seattle, Phoenix, maybe Minnesota, maybe Atlanta are kind of, the teams if you want to chase the championship, right? But for me, I look at it and I say Lizzie's more focused on her other brands and other stuff that's going on in her life. And so she would want to be going to a larger market. So I think that kind of eliminates basically everybody except 3 teams. LA, Vegas, and New York. Now, obviously New York with the new announcement of a new coach kind of changes things slightly, but those are the only 3 that I think are even plausible in her mind of what she would want as far as market-wise. And let's be honest, no offense to New York and the New York Liberty fans, I don't think if you're comparing Sparks and Aces, the Liberty on that same tier. With the Sparks, you're going into a known winning franchise. You got Candace Parker, you got Nneka Ogwumike, you got Vadiva, and you got Chelsea Gray. But obviously, to get Lizzie, you're going to have to drop one of those people at least, if not more. And then also you got to talk about Vegas. I mean, Vegas front office has made it abundantly clear that their main focus is putting their players in prime pro athlete positions, putting them out there and giving them the respect that they really deserve. So Rachel, talk to me. I mean, that's where my mindset is through talking to some people with knowledge.
Well, you just hit on about 800 topics there that I could go off on a tangent with, but I just want to start by, it's like a bittersweet thing for me in a lot of ways, because the news, I don't know, it's hard, but at the end of the day, one, we were first and foremost hoping that Liz Cambage was going to come back to the WNBA. To hear something like this would automatically make you believe she is planning on coming back, given this can go through. She wants to be in the WNBA. Maybe there is a franchise or maybe a couple franchises she would really want to be involved with. I disagree with you on the chasing the championship kind of notion, and I, not terribly, but really, I think Liz wants a championship. Liz Cambage is the most dominant player in the world, and I think wherever Liz goes, a championship, they automatically at least have to become in the discussion of a contender if you have the right pieces around her.
Now, but my question for that, and I agree with you. Do you think that has to do with the fact that the team, like we saw last year, how competitive this whole league is? Do you think because of that, it's more because of that aspect, she can focus more on other things that she wants in a team?
Potentially, and I think we even saw with Dallas. We had them for a period of time when they were really rolling. It's like, man, Dallas had the ability to go beat anyone any given night. They were just incredibly inconsistent, and they struggled in many different areas on any given night. But the talent was there, the skill was there. You had you had Liz Cambage, and so I don't think it's anything personal to Brian Agler. I think it has actually nothing to do with that. I think probably, if I had to speculate, you're looking at Liz, and I agree with you on the branding. I agree with you on the glitz and the glamour. We all know that Cambage is all into the DJ life, like kind of her brand and her position in the sports world outside of, just playing in the WNBA. So this is a personal move as well. This is probably a well-being move. And I think, she saw her coach get fired. I think there was a lot of emotional strain and kind of what went down last year. And maybe she's feeling like, I just need a fresh start. Mentally, this is what's best for me. I'm going to request this. Now, it's easy to sit here and think, all right, the timing, right? Like LA announced their assistant coaches yesterday. And then I broke the news like 2 hours later about Liz requesting a trade. This has been going on for a period of time. And I think it's a strategic move by the Sparks to hire Fred Williams. Given Liz and his relationship, they're very close. Liz already wants to be there. But I think at the end of the day, Dallas truly controls the situation here. I have a really hard time trying to wrap my mind around what that trade would look like, because Candace isn't going to go anywhere. I don't see Nneka going anywhere. I don't see Chelsea going anywhere. So you're getting down to like Maria Vadiva, which I know Agler is a huge fan of. Maria Vadiva, she's a talented player, but is that a trade worthy of the most dominant player in the world?
Well, also, if one of the issues for LA last year was kind of pace and transition, how you gonna do that when you got three bigs in your starting lineup? Now, are you really gonna knock Nneka down to the bench?
I don't know.
Right, exactly, and that's even more so why you would have to include one of those bigs in it.
So what I think is interesting, what makes more logical sense, if we're talking glitz and glam, we're talking a franchise that is a premier franchise. Obviously, that's the LA Sparks. They're always going to be the glitz and glam. It's LA. But I mean, let's look at the Aces. I mean, what they did last year. And that first year, from just a branding standpoint, just an investment standpoint, I mean, that's the place to be. There's no doubt about it in my mind. I mean, they've completely got it going on there. So I think Vegas has a lot of trade power. There's a lot of different routes you can go through that, from a number one pick down through, Mariah Jefferson's and bigs. I think they have got to be more appealing for being able to create a deal with Dallas to get this done. Now, is Liz open to that? Would she be open to going to Las Vegas, or is she going to be so set on in LA that maybe this turns into something where they can't get it done and she sits out? Who knows? Because I think there's a lot that could still go on. But as you said, I think when they make that announcement and this comes out, this no longer becomes a deal between two teams. This becomes, everyone's trying to get involved. I could see New York trying to get in. This is New York City we're talking about. They have trade power there with the number 2 pick and potentially like a Tina Charles. You could get something done with that. I wouldn't be surprised, but or at least them trying to get involved in the mix. And I'll add one more in there just for the sake of it, that maybe she would even potentially entertain, and that could be like in Atlanta. Now, how that gets done, I'm not sure. I have no idea, but I'm just...
Well, because and we've talked about this. Atlanta, I think you'd struggle to find the right pieces to trade for her, because a lot of the key pieces Atlanta would be able to trade is elements that Dallas already has. Now, you brought something up interesting. New York. New York's interesting to me because they're essentially starting from scratch, not just with the coaching or not just with the ownership, but you have like 2 players on roster, on contract for next year, including the recently cored Tina Charles. Right. So you really have an opportunity to start fresh. If you get Liz, if you get Liz, you then can create your whole team around her. What would be the best fit? Obviously, there's going to be elements that you can't really work with. There's only so many players out there. But you really get to try and create a team around the most dominant player. Hey, if you get Liz and you can somehow get, Elena Beard, that...
Yeah.
I'm just saying that because Beard's just the best.
I feel like New York makes sense from a geographical standpoint and the glitz and glam standpoint, being New York City, if you will. But I can't, I don't know. My opinion, it's just the perception of what New York has been the last couple of years that I think is probably, not the greatest. That has to be rebuilt, and I can't imagine Liz wanting to be a part of that. And this is just this is my opinion.
Oh yeah, but then I'd even add to it. I mean, I think the one that kind of checks all the boxes, so to speak, would be Vegas. They have the ability to get rid of, a top draft pick point guard of recent who could still be molded and created, and we've seen Agler's ability to utilize good scoring guards. Mm-hmm. And then even on top of that, it fits her kind of glitz and glam whateverness. You can get some back. And I mean, for Vegas, think about Vegas with Liz, Asia, and McBride. Like, how insane is that?
Yeah. I've been thinking about it. Don't worry.
It's insane. All right. There's too much there that we could go on forever. Something we do want to touch on, though, is the rest of the unrestricted free agents, if you will. It's very interesting because in my mind, you have the players who we kind of expect to go back to what I'll call their home turf, to their teams. Players like Simone Augustus, Rebecca Brunson, we would assume Monique Curry also. But the players who it's interesting, LaToya Sanders was like one of the top on my list. All right. My list is like Elena Beard, TRP, Tiara Ruffin-Pratt, Allie Quigley, and LaToya Sanders. Now, obviously, Allie Quigley is going back, right? She just got married and her wife plays for Chicago. I feel like that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I would be shocked. That's a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, and then you add to that. So, like, really, in my mind, the top free agents who might not be back with their team, TRP, LaToya Sanders, the team has made it clear they want her back, and they're going to make a strong move for her. Karima Christmas-Kelly is up there, underrated. What's going to happen with her? She's the type of player who could go over to, there's a lot of players, I guess, in the unrestricted free agent pool that are the type of, I talk about New York like this. You're full of sixth woman of the years. Tons of players that if you were to go to a team that's missing that like singular piece, you would take them to that next level. I'll say that with Prince. I'll say that with Shavonte Zellis. If they go to a team that is missing that off the bench firepower, they could really be that. Brianne January, like we obviously, if you're Phoenix, you're doing everything you can to get her back.
I
right?
would imagine so, yes.
So, I mean, to me, the questions are really LA players like Essence Carson, Elena Beard, and Wakrana Williams. Where are they going? Do they want to go back with this new coaching staff? Do they want to try their hand out on another team? There's a lot of questions there, Rachel. Well, I mean, is there a player that sticks out to you?
Well, I think like an Essence Carson, she's got a ton of involvement in LA. I don't see that being a move at all. At least that one I can speak to. I guess, I think if there's going to be a massive move with LA, it's going to be someone like Liz Cambage or a push to really make that happen. If that doesn't go down, I could see it being a similar scenario. Maybe you bring in a couple different pieces, but I think we're going to see that core remain. I don't think we're going to see a lot of changes from that standpoint to Chelsea Grays. From the free agency standpoint, I think they're going to remain.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always keep bringing up Elena Beard because I would love to see her on some of these other teams because her shutdown defense would just take anybody to that next level, just to a ridiculously competent lockdown defense. I mean, throw her on Chicago, throw her on Minnesota, throw her on Dallas, or throw her on New York.
But if I'm LA, I'm doing everything I can to get her back from it.
Oh yeah, and really the only thing that could really hold her back is her. I feel like if she has any issues with the new coaching staff and her ties to the DC area, because she's from the area and still lives out here. There's a lot more to discuss, Rachel. I'm sure we'll have to have another episode as soon as we break a little bit more news, some other stuff pops up. Something I do want to remind people, if you're listening to this podcast, we are open to hiring staff, beat reporters. Also, video specialists. Our guy Nick will be training you in video. So, if you're not fully aware of all the ins and outs of how to make, videos and whatnot, and you're interested in learning, you think you'd be a good fit, shoot us an email, send us a DM on Twitter, Instagram, what have you. Rachel, anything you want to close out before we say bye to the folks?
Does this mean you're firing me?
Rachel, I would never fire you. Unless you disagree with me one more time.
Oh, no, I'm good. Thanks for listening, guys. Keep the conversation going. Everything that's going on right now is just exciting. I love kind of just seeing people's different opinions, people's thoughts. I think just the buzz going around the league right now is incredibly exciting. And it just speaks to the growth and the excitement surrounding it. So keep the conversations going. We'll keep breaking stuff when we can, and talk to you guys soon.
I'm Aryeh Schwartz, and that's Rachel Galligan. This has been the WNBA Insider Show. Each week we cover different topics important to the W using X's and O's along with key stats.